The great royal hall of the alien empire was silent. Hundreds of alien warriors stood in perfect lines across the massive chamber. Their dark armor reflected the blue lights that filled the room. Tall pillars reached up toward the glowing ceiling, and strange alien symbols moved slowly across the walls. At the end of the hall stood a throne made of shining silver metal. On that throne sat the ruler of the empire, the alien queen. Her long white robes flowed across the steps of the throne. Her silver eyes watched everything in the room with calm power. Every alien in the hall respected her and feared her. But today, the court was not gathered for a normal meeting. Today, they were here to see something unusual. A human. Two alien guards suddenly pushed open the giant doors of the hall. The heavy doors made a deep sound as they moved. Between the guards walked a man. He was smaller than the aliens around him. His dark military uniform was torn in many places. His arm was injured, and blood had dried along the fabric of his sleeve. But even with his wounds, the human walked forward without fear. His name was Captain Daniel Hayes, a soldier from Earth. Many aliens in the hall leaned forward with curiosity. Humans were still new to the galaxy. Most alien races believed humans were weak and primitive, just another young species from a small planet. Some of the alien nobles whispered to each other, "So this is a human." One of them said quietly, "They look fragile." Another replied, "A simple creature." But Captain Daniel Hayes did not look fragile. His face was calm. His eyes were focused. Even while surrounded by hundreds of alien warriors, he did not lower his head. The guards stopped in front of the throne. "Prisoner from the border battle," one guard announced loudly. "A human soldier." The hall became quiet again. All eyes turned toward the alien queen. For a moment, she did not move. She simply watched the wounded human standing below her throne. Then, slowly, she stood. Her movement was graceful but powerful. The long hall seemed even quieter as she stepped down from the throne. One step, then another. Her silver eyes never left the human. The alien nobles watched with confusion. It was unusual for the queen to approach a prisoner herself, especially a human. Captain Hayes remained still as the queen stopped in front of him. Up close, the difference between them was clear. She was taller, her presence strong and mysterious. Yet the human did not step back. The queen studied the wound on his arm. The injury was serious. The skin was burned from alien weapons, and dried blood covered the torn uniform. "Interesting," she said softly. Her voice was calm, but it carried across the entire hall. "You fought well for a human." Daniel said nothing. He simply met her gaze. The nobles waited for the next order. Execution, prison, interrogation. Those were the usual choices. But the queen did something no one expected. She slowly raised her hand. The alien guards tensed. Some warriors shifted their weapons. Then, the queen gently touched the human's injured arm. A soft blue light appeared from her hand. Gasps filled the royal hall. The light spread slowly across the wound. The burned skin began to repair itself. The bleeding stopped. The torn flesh closed as if time itself was moving backward. Within seconds, the injury was gone. Captain Hayes looked down at his arm in surprise. The hall exploded with whispers. "The queen healed him? Why would she help a human? This makes no sense." But the queen ignored them all. She stepped a little closer to the human soldier. For a moment, the entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Then she spoke quietly. Only a few people nearby could clearly hear the words, but the silence in the hall carried her voice everywhere. "You are mine now, human, eh?" The whispers stopped instantly. A shock spread across the faces of the alien nobles. No ruler in the empire had ever claimed a being from another species like that, especially not a human. Captain Hayes slowly looked up at the Queen. He did not fully understand what her words meant, but he could feel something had changed. The Queen turned back toward her throne and raised her hand. "This human now belongs to the crown," she announced. "No one will harm him." The hall erupted with confusion. Alien generals exchanged worried looks. Nobles began arguing quietly among themselves. But none of them dared to challenge the Queen directly. Far above them, the stars of the galaxy continued their silent movement. And deep inside the alien empire's royal palace, one simple moment had just begun a story that would soon change the fate of humans and aliens forever. The royal hall did not return to normal after the Queen's words. In fact, the silence became heavier. Hundreds of alien eyes stared at the human standing below the throne. Some looked confused, others looked angry. A few looked curious, but none of them understood the Queen's decision. Captain Daniel Hayes stood still, trying to process what had just happened. Only minutes ago, he had been a prisoner captured during a battle in space. He expected interrogation, maybe even execution. Instead, the most powerful ruler in this part of the galaxy had healed his injury. And then she said something even. "Stranger, you are mine now, human." Daniel slowly flexed his arm. The wound was completely gone. The pain had disappeared as if it had never existed. Human medicine could not heal like that. Even the most advanced technology on Earth needed time, but the Queen had healed it in seconds. Around the hall, the alien nobles finally began speaking louder. "This is unacceptable," one noble said angrily. "He is a human soldier, an enemy. Why would the Queen protect him?" Another alien general crossed his arms. His dark armor was decorated with symbols of many victories. "This is dangerous," he said coldly. "Humans are unpredictable." Their voices grew louder as the debate spread across the court. But the Queen remained calm. She had already returned to her throne and sat down again with quiet confidence. Her silver eyes looked across the room, watching the reaction of her court. She expected this. The captain of the royal guard stepped forward. His tall figure stood between the Queen and the arguing nobles. "The Queen has spoken," he said firmly. "The human is under royal protection." Some aliens looked unhappy, but none of them challenged the royal guard. Everyone in the empire knew his reputation. He had defeated warriors from many different species. If the Queen trusted him, no one argued with him directly. Captain Hayes looked around the massive hall. Everything felt strange. The aliens were taller, stronger, and clearly more advanced than humans. Their armor and technology were far beyond anything he had seen before. And yet, they were arguing about him. A single human soldier. One alien noble suddenly stepped forward. He was tall and thin, with sharp eyes and dark robes. Unlike the warriors, he carried no weapon, but his voice was powerful. "Your Majesty," he said, while bowing slightly. With respect, the court deserves an explanation. The hall became quiet again. The Queen leaned slightly against the arm of her throne. "You believe my decision is a mistake?" she asked calmly. The noble hesitated for a moment. "Yes, Your Majesty," he admitted. "Humans are a young species, weak compared to the great races of the galaxy." Several other nobles nodded in agreement. A captured soldier should not receive royal protection. And certainly not be claimed by the Queen. The last words echoed through the hall. Daniel noticed something interesting. The aliens seemed more shocked by that word than anything else. Claimed, the Queen's silver eyes slowly moved across the room. "You judge a species without understanding it," she said. Her voice was not loud, but it carried authority. The hall remained silent as she continued. "This human fought in the border battle," she said. "Reports say his unit was surrounded by 3 war squads. Some of the generals looked surprised. They knew the battle she was talking about. It had been brutal. Yet he survived," the Queen continued. "Even after being wounded." All eyes turned back to the human soldier. Daniel felt slightly uncomfortable under the attention, but he remained calm. A large alien general suddenly spoke. His armor was darker than the others, and many battle marks covered its surface. "I know that battle," he said. "My soldiers reported it." He looked directly at Daniel. This human continued fighting even after his weapon failed. Some quiet murmurs spread through the hall. "That is unusual for such a young species," another noble admitted. The Queen watched their reactions carefully. "Humans are not what you believe," she said. Her gaze returned to the human soldier. "There is something different about them." Daniel still did not fully understand what was happening, but one thing was clear. The Queen was defending him, and that made many powerful aliens very uncomfortable. Finally, the Queen raised her hand again. The hall immediately became silent. "This discussion is finished," she announced. "The human will be taken to the Royal Medical Chamber for examination." Her silver eyes moved across the court. "And from this moment forward, he will remain under my protection." The captain of the guard nodded. He gestured to 2 soldiers standing near the door. "Escort the human," he ordered. The soldiers approached Daniel, but their attitude was different now. Before, they treated him like a prisoner. Now, they treated him like something important. As Daniel walked toward the exit, he felt the eyes of the entire alien court following him. Some were curious, some were suspicious, some were angry. But high above them, the alien queen watched quietly from her throne, and deep in her mind, she was already thinking about. The Royal Medical Chamber was very different from the battlefield Captain Daniel Hayes remembered. The room was quiet and bright. Soft white lights filled the space, and strange alien machines floated slowly in the air. Transparent screens showed moving symbols and glowing lines that Daniel could not understand. He sat on a smooth metal bed while several alien doctors studied him carefully. One doctor held a thin scanner above Daniel's arm. The device made a soft humming sound. "Interesting," the doctor said. Another alien looked at a floating screen. "The wound is completely healed." Daniel looked down at his arm again. Only a few minutes ago, the skin had been burned and bleeding. Now it looked completely normal. "Your queen heals fast," Daniel said calmly. The alien doctors looked at him with curiosity. One of them spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. "Our queen possesses ancient biological abilities. Very few beings in the galaxy can do what she did." Daniel leaned back slightly. "Well, I guess I should thank her." The doctors continued scanning him from head to toe. Every small detail of the human body seemed to interest them. One of them suddenly spoke with surprise. "His bones show signs of multiple old fractures." Another doctor looked closer. "Yes, healed many times." A third doctor moved the scanner again, and muscle damage also healed. They all looked at Daniel. "You have survived many injuries," the first doctor said. Daniel shrugged slightly. "I'm a soldier," he replied. The aliens exchanged quiet looks. To them, this was unusual. Many alien species avoided physical danger whenever possible. Their technology solved most problems before fighting became necessary. But humans seemed different. The door of the medical chamber suddenly opened. Everyone in the room immediately stood straighter. The alien queen entered. Her long white robes moved softly behind her as she walked inside. The doctors lowered their heads in respect. "Report," she said calmly. The main doctor stepped forward. The human is healthy, Your Majesty. His body shows signs of many previous injuries, but all have healed. The Queen's silver eyes moved toward Daniel. You have survived many battles, she said. Daniel nodded. Humans fight. A lot. The Queen tilted her head slightly. Why? The question seemed simple, but Daniel thought about it for a moment. Because life is hard on Earth, he finally said. We learn to survive. The Queen studied him carefully. Explain. Daniel leaned forward slightly. Earth isn't an easy world, he said. Storms, disasters, wars. Humans deal with problems all the time. The alien doctors listened quietly. For us, Daniel continued, pain is normal. Struggle is normal. We grow stronger because we have to. The room became silent. To the alien scientists, this idea was strange. Most advanced species lived on stable worlds with controlled environments. Their technology removed many dangers from daily life. But humans came from a much harsher planet. The Queen slowly walked closer. So weakness teaches your species strength, she said thoughtfully. Daniel nodded. Something like that. The Queen turned slightly toward the doctors. Leave. Us. The alien doctors quickly bowed and exited the room. Soon, only the Queen and the human remained. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The Queen looked at him with deep curiosity. You stood in the royal hall without fear, she said. Daniel smiled slightly. I was definitely nervous, but you did not show it. Daniel shrugged. Humans are good at hiding fear. The Queen seemed to consider this carefully. In my empire, many species rely on power and technology, she said, but you rely on something else. Daniel crossed his arms. Determination. Queen nodded slowly. Yes. She walked toward the large window of the chamber. Outside, the lights of the massive alien city stretched across the night. Many in my court believe humans are weak, she said. Daniel followed her gaze toward the city. They're not completely wrong, he admitted. Compared to your warriors, humans probably look small. But you survive, the Queen said. Always. The Queen turned back toward him, and you adapt. Daniel smiled. That's one of our best skills. The Queen's silver. I shined with quiet interest. This is why I chose you. Daniel blinked in surprise. You chose me? Yes. He frowned slightly. Why? The Queen walked closer again. Because the galaxy misunderstands humanity, she said. Her voice became softer. And I believe that will become a very serious mistake. Daniel looked at her carefully. You think humans are important? The Queen answered without hesitation. Yes, but before Daniel could ask another question, the door of the chamber suddenly opened again. A tall alien general stepped inside. His dark armor carried many battle scars. His expression was cold. Your Majesty, he said, while bowing slightly. There is a problem. The Queen's calm expression did not change. What problem? The general glanced briefly at the human. Many leaders in the Empire are not pleased with your decision. Daniel had a feeling this conversation was about to become dangerous. And he was right. Because somewhere inside the alien empire, powerful people had already begun to see the human soldier as a threat. The air inside the medical chamber suddenly felt heavier. Captain Daniel Hayes looked at the tall alien general standing near the door. The warrior's dark armor was covered with deep scratches from old battles. His eyes were cold and serious. Clearly, this was someone important. The alien queen did not look surprised to see him. Speak, General Varak, she said calmly. The general stepped forward. His heavy boots made a sharp sound on the smooth metal floor. Your decision has caused unrest in the Empire. Varak said. Many nobles and commanders are questioning it. His eyes moved briefly toward Daniel. They believe protecting a human soldier is a mistake. Daniel crossed his arms quietly, but said nothing. The queen remained calm on the other side of the room. My decisions are not made for their comfort, she replied. Varak lowered his head slightly in respect, but his voice remained firm. I understand, Your Majesty. But the council believes this human could become a problem. Daniel raised an eyebrow. A problem? He said. I'm just a soldier. Varak looked directly at him. You are an unknown variable, the general replied coldly. Your species has little history in the galaxy. No one knows what humans might become. Daniel gave a small smile. Honestly, humans don't always know that either. The queen ignored the small exchange. What does the council want? She asked. Varak hesitated for a moment before answering. They demand proof. Proof of what? That humans deserve your protection. The room fell quiet. Daniel looked between them. So what exactly does that mean? Ark's expression became even more serious. It means a trial. Daniel sighed. Of course it does. The queen studied the general carefully. You wish to test him, she said. Yes, Your Majesty. And if he fails, Varak answered without emotion, then the council will consider your decision. Incorrect. The meaning was clear. If Daniel failed the test, the nobles would use it as proof that humans were weak and worthless. The queen slowly walked toward the general. You challenge my judgment, she said quietly. Varak immediately lowered his head again. I question the risk, not your wisdom. For several seconds, the room was silent. Daniel could feel the tension building between them. Finally, the queen spoke again. What trial do they propose? Varak lifted his head slightly. The trial of strength. Daniel blinked. That sounds very unpleasant. Varak ignored the comment. It is an ancient test used by our warriors, the general explained. A series of survival challenges designed to measure courage, intelligence, and endurance. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. So, basically, a deadly obstacle. Course correct, Varak replied. Daniel looked at the queen. You know I'm human, right? The queen's silver eyes showed the smallest hint of amusement. Yes, humans don't usually survive alien warrior tests. That is exactly the council's point, Varak said. The queen turned toward Daniel. Do you refuse the challenge? Daniel thought for a moment. On Earth, soldiers often faced impossible situations. Retreat was sometimes the smart choice, but this situation felt different. If he refused, the entire alien empire would see humans as weak. And somehow, Daniel did not like that idea. He slowly stood up from the medical bed. What happens if I survive? He asked. Varak answered immediately. Then the council will accept the queen's decision. Daniel nodded slowly. That seems fair. The general studied him carefully. You understand that no human has ever completed this trial. Daniel smiled slightly. Well, there's always a first time. The queen watched him with interest. You are confident, she said. Daniel shrugged. Not really. Then why accept? Daniel gave a simple answer. Because humans don't quit easily. Varak crossed his arms. Confidence will not save you in the arena. Daniel chuckled. Good thing humans also have stubbornness. For the first time, the general seemed slightly curious. The queen turned toward the large window of the chamber again. Far outside, the enormous alien city glowed under the night sky. So the council wants a demonstration, she said quietly. Varak nodded. Yes. She remained silent for a moment. Then she made her decision. The trial will happen tomorrow. Varak looked satisfied. I will prepare the arena. He turned, and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he stopped and looked back at the human soldier. "I hope you understand something, Captain Hayes." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "What's that? If you fail?" Daniel thought about that for a moment. Then he gave a calm answer. "Guess I better not fail then." Varric left the room without another word. The door closed behind him. Silence returned to the chamber. The Queen looked back at the human. "You?" "Accepted quickly," she said. Daniel sat back down slowly. "Yeah. Maybe too quickly. You could die." Daniel gave a small smile. "That's part of being human." The Queen studied him carefully again. "Tomorrow, the Empire will watch you." Daniel nodded. Double quotes, no pressure. But deep inside the alien empire, word of the trial was already spreading by morning. Millions of alien citizens would be watching the arena. They all expected the same thing. Weak human soldier would fail. What none of them realized was that humans had a strange habit. Sometimes they survived the impossible. The arena of the alien empire was enormous. It was built in the center of the royal city, surrounded by towering silver structures and glowing energy towers. Millions of alien citizens filled the massive viewing platforms that circled the arena like giant rings. Today, the entire empire was watching, because today, a human would face the trial of strength. Captain Daniel Hayes stood at the entrance of the arena tunnel. Bright lights from the stadium shined ahead of him. He could hear the loud voices of thousands of aliens waiting for the trial to begin. Beside him stood General Varric. The general looked calm, but his eyes studied the human carefully. "You still have time to refuse," Varric said. Daniel rolled his shoulders and stretched his arms. "Nah," he replied. "I already came this far." Varric crossed his arms. This trial was not designed for humans. Daniel gave a small smile. Most things in the galaxy probably weren't. For a moment, the general said nothing. Then he turned toward the arena entrance. "Very well," he said. The massive gates slowly opened. Bright light flooded into the tunnel. Daniel stepped forward. As he entered the arena, the noise of the crowd exploded like thunder. Thousands of alien voices echoed through the stadium. Some shouted with excitement. Others laughed. Many expected the same result. A weak human would fail quickly. High above the arena, the alien queen watched from the royal balcony. Her silver eyes followed the small human figure walking across the sand-covered battlefield. General Varric's voice echoed through the arena speakers. "The trial of strength begins now." Daniel looked around. The arena was huge, almost like a desert surrounded by metal walls. Strange structures stood in different areas, each clearly designed for a specific challenge. Varric's voice continued. "The trial contains 3 stages." The crowd quieted slightly. Stage 1, survival. Suddenly, the ground on the far side of the arena opened. A deep metallic sound echoed across the stadium. Daniel frowned slightly. That can't be good. From the opening, a massive creature slowly climbed into the arena. The beast was enormous. Its body was covered in dark, armor-like scales. Its 4 glowing eyes scanned the battlefield as it released a deep, growling sound. The crowd cheered loudly. Daniel stared at the creature. "That's definitely not good." Varric's voice returned. "This is a Korth beast, a predator from the war moons." The creature suddenly roared and charged forward. Daniel immediately started running. The beast slammed its heavy claws into the ground behind him, sending sand flying into the air. The crowd shouted with excitement. Many aliens expected the human to fall within seconds, but Daniel moved quickly. He changed direction suddenly, forcing the giant creature to miss its attack. The beast crashed into the sand where he had been standing only moments before. Daniel grabbed a metal pole from one of the nearby structures. "Well, let's try something," he muttered. The beast turned again and attacked. At the last second, Daniel jumped sideways and slammed the metal pole against the creature's eye. The beast roared in pain. The crowd gasped. No one expected the human to fight back. Daniel ran again, breathing heavily. "I really hope that was stage 1," he said to himself. Above the arena, General Varak watched carefully. The human was faster than he expected, but the trial was far from finished. After several intense minutes, the arena gates finally opened again. Energy weapons from the arena systems fired at the beast, forcing it back into its containment chamber. Varak's voice returned. Stage 1 completed. The crowd reacted with surprise. Some aliens even clapped. Daniel leaned forward, catching his breath. "Okay," he said quietly. "That one almost killed me." But the trial was not over. The ground in the center of the arena suddenly changed. Metal plates moved aside, revealing a deep maze filled with moving walls and glowing traps. Stage 2, Varak announced. The Maze of Hunters. Daniel sighed. "You aliens really like dangerous games." He stepped inside the maze. The walls began moving immediately. Sharp metal spikes appeared from the floor without warning. Energy beams flashed across the narrow paths. Daniel moved carefully. His soldier training helped him stay calm. Back on Earth, he had survived many combat missions. This maze was dangerous, but it followed the same rule as battle. Stay focused. Stay alive. After several close calls and quick decisions, Daniel finally reached the center of the maze. The crowd watched in silence. No human had ever come this far in the trial. Slowly stood from his seat. This result was unexpected. Daniel stepped out of the maze, tired but still standing. He looked up toward the royal balcony where the queen was watching. "Well," he said quietly, "what's the last stage?" General Varak's voice echoed across the arena one more time. "Stage 3, he paused. "The final test." Suddenly, several armored alien warriors stepped into the arena. Each one was larger and stronger than Daniel. The crowd erupted again. Varak finished the announcement. Combat. Daniel looked at the group of warriors. Then he sighed. "Yeah, I figured it would end like this." The warriors slowly surrounded him, but far above them, the alien queen watched carefully. Because something about the human's determination reminded her of something very important. Humans were fragile, but they refused to surrender. And sometimes, that made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The arena was completely silent, for alien warriors slowly walked across the sand, forming a circle around Captain Daniel Hayes. Their armor was thick and dark, built for battle. Each one carried a long energy spear that glowed with dangerous blue light. Daniel stood in the center, breathing slowly. He was tired. The first 2 stages of the trial had already pushed him to his limit. His clothes were covered with dust and sweat, and his muscles felt heavy. But his eyes were still focused. High above the arena, millions of alien citizens watched the scene on giant screens. Most of them expected the same ending. The human would finally fall. General Varak's voice echoed through the stadium. Stage 3. Combat against Imperial warriors. The warriors lowered their weapons. Daniel looked at them carefully. "Let me guess," he said quietly. "You guys don't plan to go easy on me?" One of the warriors answered in a deep voice. "This is the final test, human." Daniel nodded slowly. "Fair enough." The first warrior suddenly rushed forward. His spear moved quickly through the air, aiming directly at Daniel's chest. Daniel jumped backward just in time. The glowing weapon cut through the air where he had been standing only a second before. The crowd gasped. The second warrior attacked from the side. Daniel rolled across the sand and avoided the strike again. He quickly grabbed a fallen metal rod from the ground, the same one he used earlier against the beast. "Well," T muttered. This worked once. The third warrior moved forward. Their attacks were fast and powerful. Each strike forced Daniel to move quickly to stay alive. But something strange was happening. The human was still standing above the arena. General Varak frowned slightly. He had expected the fight to end quickly, but the human soldier was adapting. Daniel blocked one attack with the metal rod, then quickly ducked under another spear. He moved like someone who had survived many battles before. Back on Earth, he had fought in war zones, trained in survival missions, and learned how to fight even when the odds were terrible. That experience was now saving his life. One of the warriors swung his weapon again. Daniel stepped to the side and pushed the warrior off balance. The alien stumbled slightly, giving Daniel a moment to breathe. The crowd began whispering. Why is the human still alive? T should be defeated already. General Varak watched closely. He was starting to realize something important. Humans might be weaker physically than many alien species, but they learned very quickly. Down in the arena, the fight continued. Daniel was breathing heavily now, but his mind stayed focused. "Think," he told himself. He looked around the battlefield. The sand, the broken metal pieces, the distance between the warriors. Then he saw an opportunity. When the next warrior attacked, Daniel moved suddenly. Instead of running away, he rushed forward. The alien was surprised. Daniel used the metal rod to push the spear aside, then quickly kicked the warrior's leg. The large alien lost balance and fell to the ground. The crowd gasped loudly. A human had just defeated an imperial warrior. The other three warriors stopped moving for a moment. Even they seemed surprised, high above the arena. The alien queen watched with calm interest. Her silver eyes followed every movement. Finally, she stood up from her throne. The entire arena became quiet as everyone noticed. The queen raised her hand. "Enough." Her voice echoed across the stadium. The warriors immediately stepped back. General Varak looked up in surprise. He said. The queen looked down at the arena. Double quotes. "Yes," she replied calmly. "It is." The crowd began whispering again. Varak walked toward the edge of the balcony. "Your Majesty, the final stage requires victory in combat." The queen shook her head slightly. "You misunderstand the purpose of the trial." She pointed toward the human standing in the arena. "This human has already proven what I needed to see." Daniel looked up, confused. The queen continued speaking. "Strength is not only measured by power," her voice was calm but strong. "It is measured by survival, adaptation, and courage." The crowd listened carefully. This human faced a predator larger than himself and survived, she said. He crossed the maze of hunters using intelligence, and he stood against warriors stronger than him without surrender. The queen turned toward the court members watching beside her. "That is strength." General Varak remained silent, deep inside. He could not deny what he had seen. The human should have failed, but he deep down single quotes. Down in the arena, Daniel slowly lowered the metal rod. "So, does this mean I passed?" he asked quietly. The queen looked down at him. "Yes, Captain Hayes." She paused for a moment before adding one final sentence. "And now the Empire will understand why I chose you." But far away in the darker parts of the Empire, some powerful figures were not pleased with this result, because the rise of a human inside the royal court meant something dangerous. It meant the future of the galaxy might soon begin to change. The arena remained silent for several long seconds. Captain Daniel Hayes stood alone in the sand, breathing heavily. His body was tired, but he was still standing. Around him, the alien warriors had stepped back, lowering their weapons after the Queen's command. High above the arena, the alien Queen watched calmly from the royal balcony. Millions of alien citizens were still staring at the human on the battlefield. They had expected a failure. Instead, they had seen something very different. A human had survived the trial of strength. General Varric slowly stepped forward beside the Queen. His eyes were still fixed on the arena. The trial has never ended like this before, he admitted quietly. The Queen did not look surprised. History rarely repeats itself perfectly. She replied, down in the arena, Daniel wiped sweat from his forehead. He looked up toward the royal balcony. Well, he said under his breath, that was exciting. The arena gates opened again, and royal guards entered the battlefield. But this time, their posture was very different from when Daniel first arrived. Now they treated him with respect. The captain of the royal guard approached him. "The Queen wishes to speak with you," the guard said. Daniel nodded. "I was hoping for that." A few minutes later, Daniel stood once again inside the great royal hall of the alien empire. But everything felt different now. When he first entered the hall, the aliens had looked at him with curiosity and disrespect. Now many of them looked at him with something new. Respect. The nobles whispered quietly among themselves that humans survived the trial. No warrior from a young species has ever done that. Perhaps the Queen was right. At the end of the hall, the alien Queen sat upon her silver throne. She slowly stood as Daniel approached. "Captain Hayes," she said. Daniel gave a small, respectful nod. "Your Majesty." The Queen walked down the steps again, just like she had done the first time they met. But now the entire court watched with a different feeling. Something important had changed. "You have proven your courage," the Queen said. Daniel shrugged slightly. "I mostly just tried not to die." A few quiet laughs came from some of the alien soldiers nearby. Even General Varric allowed the smallest smile. The Queen stopped in front of the human soldier. "Many in my empire believed humans were weak," she said. Her silver eyes moved across the court, but today they have seen the truth. She turned back toward Daniel. "You fought not with superior strength, but with determination." Daniel nodded. "That's kind of our specialty." The Queen raised her hand toward the court. "From this day forward," she announced, "the human Captain Daniel Hayes will stand under royal protection." The hall became completely silent. Then she continued, "He will serve as the first human representative within the imperial court." Shock spread across the room. Some nobles looked surprised. Others looked thoughtful. General Varric stepped forward. "A representative?" he asked. "Yes," the Queen replied. "The galaxy is changing." She looked back at Daniel, "and humanity will play an important role in that future." Daniel blinked. "That sounds like a big responsibility." The Queen gave a calm nod. "It is." For a moment, the human soldier thought about everything that had happened. Only a day ago, he had been fighting in a desperate battle in space. Now he was standing in the royal court of a powerful alien empire. Life had changed very quickly. Daniel scratched the back of his head. "Well," he said with a small smile, "humans are good at adapting." The Queen studied him again. "That is exactly why I chose you." General Varric finally spoke again. "The Empire will watch this carefully." Daniel looked at the general. "Honestly, humans will probably watch it too." Some quiet laughter moved through the hall again. The tension that had filled the court earlier was slowly disappearing. The Queen returned to her throne and sat down. "The trial is finished," she declared. The matter is settled. No one in the court challenged her words because they had all seen the same thing. The human had survived the impossible as the royal meeting slowly ended. Daniel walked toward the tall windows of the palace. Outside, the enormous alien city shined. With lights, ships moved through the sky like glowing stars. It was a galaxy, much larger than the world he came from. General Varric stepped beside him. "You surprised many people today," the general said. Daniel smiled slightly. "Humans do that sometimes." Varric looked out over the city. "Perhaps the queen was right about your species." Daniel crossed his arms. "Maybe." Far behind them, the alien queen quietly watched the two figures standing near the window. One was a powerful alien general. The other was a single human soldier, but she understood something the rest of the galaxy was only beginning to realize. Humanity might be young, humanity might be fragile, but humans had a strange ability. They survived, they adapted, and sometimes they changed the future of the entire galaxy. And that was why the queen had spoken those words in the royal hall.